it is. Wonderful. Okay, welcome to another Discover Tai Chi with Limb Power. Thank you for joining me this evening. The lighter evenings are giving hope that we've got finer weather coming, even though it's been a bit of an iffy day, rain-wise, certainly where I live, up in Yorkshire. We'll get started. I think you all know the rules now, really, so I'm not going to over-egg those. Just look after yourselves, pause, rest if you need to. Seated, standing, variations of whatever you choose is all good. I'm going to start seated. Let me push my chair back. And let's start with a continuation of our little potpourri or pick and mix type session that we had last week. So I'm going to get you to give me a wave with your left hand and push that down to the side. So if you're seated with me, you might have to push it on the outside of some armrests. And the right hand is going to push overhead as if shading yourself from some bright sunshine. So just do that movement and just kind of push in opposite directions. And then you're going to let the hands drop, whether you're standing up, and you're going to push the hands behind and also lift the rib cage a little bit. And then just let everything relax. Get the idea? So now it's my right hand in this case, pushing down. My left hand is going to push overhead as if shading myself from the sun. I'm thinking taller in my seat. And then I'm letting everything relax as I bring that hand down. And then I push the palms behind. They're pushing backwards. And I'm lifting or letting the rib cage lift a little bit before relaxing back where we started. Excuse me. Start again. Left hand down. Shading with the right hand up overhead. Letting that hand drop, pushing both hands behind, rib cage lifts. You can lift the chin a little bit as well, and then relax. Here we go, opposite hand, pushing down, pushing up, shaded, and then pushing behind, elevating the rib cage, the chin just a little. And that kind of opening up the chest, opening up through the neck, where we can end up kind of very crouched over, can't we, if we're seated for a long time or working at a desk. So that's an opening movement. I'm going to push my chair back even further. That we go. And I'm pushing my right leg forward. This is my right leg. I'm pushing it forward. It's my prosthetic leg. So I've pushed that one forward. And let's make some waves. So I'm going to push my hands forward and lean forward a little bit. And then pick the hands clear. Again, if you're not wearing a prosthetic limb and you're seated, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you feel stable enough in your seat to hopefully maybe lean back a little and then to lean forward with movement. If you're standing up, then you might take a step forward with that right leg and use it for support as you move to and fro. So again, I want you to have permission to find positions that suit you as we just make some waves, pushing. And I want you to picture yourself in warm turquoise blue water, warm sunshine, palm trees, blue skies, warm seawater dropping from the fingertips as we pick them clear. You get the general idea, warm. I want you to induce a sense of comfort and repose, buoyancy as we're in the water as well, supporting us. If any of you swim, as I do from time to time, it's a blessed relief from being on land. to actually be supported by water. Let's do this one more time on this side. Wonderful. I'm going to bring that leg in as far as it will go at least. I'm going to do the same with the left leg. So again, if you're standing up, you may want to lead with that left leg. And again, that will mean different things for different people if you're wearing a lower limb prosthesis. Or you could just be standing in on the spot. If you sat down with me, again, we start making waves. I'm letting my body go with the flow, leaning forward a little, with the push, leaning back a little as I draw the hands back. And I'm just, again, visualizing that warm space that I've placed myself in. Kind of imbuing that sensibility of being comfortably warm and buoyant and able to move comfortably as well. We'll do one more push here to make one final wave. Lovely. We're going to do two movements. We sometimes call these movements getting ready in the morning because they kind of confer that idea. The first movement is called washing the face and hair. And again, I want you to have this picture of a bowl in front of you. Again, whether you're standing up or seated, contains lovely, warm, clean water. And we're going to dip our hands into that bowl. And we're going to imagine that we lift our hands clear. And although we're not going to touch the face, it's as if we splash water on the face. And then we take the hands again over the top of the head, round the back, and down to re-enter that water. So we're not actually touching the head, but we're giving the impression that we're splashing warm water up over the top, taking it around and down. If you're prone to headaches, as I am, this can be a really nice movement when you've got a very sore head. To just have that sense of, again, warm water easing aches and pains away. So again, make sure the hands aren't actually touching the face or touching your hair or head. They're hovering just above and around. Okay, one more of these. Wonderful. And then we're going to bring our palms together and make circles, circling the palms. If you wish, you can close your eyes and really picture your finger pads, thumb pads, base of the thumb, base of the little finger, the center of the palm, the pads at the base of the fingers. Really get a sense of the texture and quality of your skin. Is it warm, cool? Is it dry? Or is there a sense of dampness there? Or just get a picture of those hands. And then stop that rubbing. Choose a hand. This is my right hand. We're imagining we're holding a brush, a hairbrush. And in a similar vein, we're going to brush our imaginary hair, in my case, all the way to the back of the head and then down like so. I'm going to do that 3 times. So again, we're not touching the hair or the head, but we're taking the hand as if we were brushing our hair. And again, just let the head turn very intuitively, just as you would do if you were taking a brush to your hair. And then we're going to swap hands. place that brush in that hand and do the opposite side of the head. Whichever one you started with, do the opposite side. And again, slow brushes. Again, if you're prone to headaches, these can be nice movements to give some relief. Wonderful. Back to the hand you started with. This is my right hand. So this time we're going over the head on the opposite side. So this is my right hand. So it's now going over to the left, around the back, and then all the way back down, like so. So the head can turn to accommodate this movement as we do so. So there's a lot going on. If we think about it in terms of the movement, we've got lots of hand, arm, shoulder movement, head, neck movements as well. Let's do that one more time. So again, it's a good mobilizer, but in a way that kind of feels as though it relates to real life. Brushing hair. Let's swap to the other hand. This is my left hand, so it's going to go onto the right side, around and down. Again, without touching. We're just creating the motion and the feeling of brushing hair. I'll do that one more time. Lovely. Okay, so interesting movements that again have some roots that go back quite a long way in terms of the exercises from ancient China. I'm going to stand up now. Again, don't worry if you're seated, stay seated. I'm just standing up to show the changes. So we're crossing the hands in front. We're doing happy days or the fountain or parting clouds. We're bringing the hands up in front of the body. Let me come a little closer. Turn the palms and then open up as far as you feel comfortable. And let's imagine that we are parting the clouds. The hands part and they come down, little finger edges. And then we cross the opposite hand over. They're not touching. I'll turn to the side and then they turn and then we open up. The hands go overhead and then down to the sides with a little finger edge leading. Okay. Once again, back to the original crossing of the hands, turning at shoulder height, opening up. And we're imagining that we're creating some clarity in space as we do so. Instead of cloudy skies, we are parting those clouds as we move so. And again, it's a lovely shoulder movement as well. Opening up, lifting the rib cage, but have this sense of opening up as well. Make this the last one. Okay. Another movement that confers this idea of opening. I'll do this standing first of all and then seated, but I'll describe it from both points of view. So if we're standing up, we start with our hands by the sides. And if we're sat down, same thing. Again, if you have arm rests, you might want to let the hands and arms hang on the outside of those arm rests. We're bringing the hands around and we're bringing the backs of the hands together. Again, if you sat down, they'll have come around your knees and they will be in between the knees, most likely. And I'm looking down to my feet, past the hands. And now I'm going to unfurl and roll the hands out, turn the palms, lift the rib cage and just let the hands extend backwards. And then slowly, slowly, I'm going to return to that start position where we had the backs of the hands touching, looking down towards the ground before opening up again. So we think of this like a flower opening up. There's the sunshine, lifting the rib cage, the head a little bit, and then slowly returning. Okay, keep coming back to that movement as I sit back down just to illustrate it seated. I'm bringing my hands around the knees, looking down to the ground. And then I'm opening up, bringing the hands around. And then I'm lifting my rib cage, opening up before closing again. And we're trying to do so in a kind of gentle rhythm, closing and then opening again, just as if we were following the daily rhythm of sunrise and sunset. Let's do that one more time. Closing, looking down, and then opening up. Okay, I'll stay seated for this one, but again, if you are standing up, that's okay. So if you are standing, you need to be a little bit mindful of your balance with this one. Once again, I'll start seated, but I'll demonstrate standing. Again, you have options to either have a leg forward or to be standing in place, sort of hip width apart. And it's called homage to the sky and earth. And we're basically lifting the hands up, and we're going to lift the rib cage and look up to the sky. And then we're going to bring the hands down. If we're seated, again, we need to be just mindful not to lean too far, but we're going to lean forward, look down, and push the palms behind us. So if you're seated, you'll put pressure into the feet. If you're standing up, you're basically hinging forwards at the hips. So I'm going to stand up and demonstrate that. If you're seated, just continue in the way that we've just shown. So here we go. I'll do a standing version first, where we lift up, looking up to the sky, and then bring the hands down. And then I'm looking down to the ground. I'm taking a bow, so to speak, but I'm pushing my hands behind me. The palms are heading up towards the sky, and then I slowly come back up. So again, you have to be mindful of your balance. For some people, having a foot forward can be a useful support, but again, it's going to depend on if you're wearing or using a prosthesis for the lower limbs and the kind of prosthesis that you use. So again, find what works for you. Let's go again. Lifting up, looking up, rib cage lifts, and then everything settles down. Sung, let the shoulder girdle come to rest. Wait until the hands are fully down before you start to do that bow, hinging at the hips, looking down towards the feet, pushing the palms away upwards, and then coming back upright. So again, we don't hold any positions. If you notice, we find a position, but we immediately return from that position without overstretching. Let's do this one more time, shall we? And then back to where we started, lowering the hands, letting the shoulder girdle relax down. Pushing the palms behind us as we take a bow. Think of it as a bow. Try and get that sense of the exercise or the movement, paying homage to the sky and earth. Great, good stuff. Okay. Whether we're seated or standing, we're holding a ball. Doesn't matter which hand is on top. The rules are whichever hand is on top, that's the direction we're turning. Left for left, right for right. So I've got my left hand on top and I'm turning my hips, my shoulders, my head as I take that ball around and turn it over. And now my right hand's on top, so I turn my hips, shoulders and head to turn to the right. If we're seated, you won't be able to turn your hips, but you will be able to turn in your waist, I hope, and shoulders, head and neck. So move from that base created by your seat and let the rotation happen further up in the spine. And again, we're just taking our time. We're keeping this imaginary sphere or ball low down, making sure that our hands aren't in front of our face, for example, because that again lifts the rib cage and lifts the shoulder girdle, and that's not what we want. We want to keep the hands relaxed and there. Don't worry if we're out of sync. Just go in your own time from one side to the other, building some rotation in. And then come back to the center and let that ball melt away. If you find it difficult to coordinate the hands, then here's a little prop just off to the side. A balloon. There we go. So if you have some balloons, or you might have another kind of ball or something, again, we've got this motion which can help sometimes just get the idea of how the hands are working to support our imaginary ball. So I hope that helps. Off you go. Okay, oh, it's coming back. Go away. Next movement, okay? And we're going to hold our palms. This is from the Shibashi set that we were learning previously. Pushing palms. This is my right hand. There's my fingers wiggling. I'm turning the palm and then I'm pushing across the body towards the left. So I get this stretch through the shoulder. Turn the palm over, draw it back. And then I do the same with the left. Push the palm across to the right. And then turn the palm over and draw it back. And then we alternate from one side to the other. So whether you're seated or standing, you're getting some rotation in the upper spine, but we're also getting this stretch through the shoulders. Alternately as we move slowly and steadily with these pushes. Look in the direction of a hand that pushes. That will help give you some rotation in the upper part of the back and the shoulders, just to make that movement a little bit easier. So look in the direction in which you push, left for left, right for right. And again, you should feel that through the shoulders. Not holding that movement, just finding the range and then moving within that range. Let's do one more on each side. Here we go. Last one for me. And then draw the hands back. Okay. Stay standing if you wish. I'm going to sit back down again. Okay. Just to keep alternating positions for different people. Got my hands on my knees if I'm seated. If you're standing, they're just to the side. And we can think of it either as splashing water. I've got my left hand and I'm going to splash to my Right. Or we're throwing a ball, so it's called casting your cares away. If we're seated, we can let that hand return to the knee, and then we pick up the other hand and we splash or throw a ball off now to the opposite side. So again, we're getting rotation as we alternate from one side to the other, turning the head to look in the direction in which we are either splashing water or throwing a ball off into the distance, casting your cares away as we do so. If you're standing up, you'll be able to get a bit more rotation through the hips as well. Whereas if we're seated like I am, then again, it all comes from the waist upwards. Fab. Casting your cares away. So we've probably got time for a couple of movements before we bring things to a close. Let's take flight. Again, seated or standing. And it's as if we adopt a position in ballet where we bring the hands around, the palms are facing in, the fingertips. So I've got this roundness. And then we're going to take flight with a wing beat with very soft hands, arms, getting a feel for the air, so to speak, as we take wing beats. Try to have this sense that with every upbeat of the wings or arms, there's a sense of lift in the torso, head and neck. And then there's a sense of relaxation and settling as we have the downbeat. So there's this alternation of lift and then rest on the downbeat. Again, whether we're seated or standing. See if we can just bring the hands and arms a little higher. So there's a little longer in that sense of lift, and then we settle. So see if you can have this sense of lifting, of buoyancy, of elongation, the hands coming almost overhead. We're aiming, if we've got the range, to actually bring the backs of the hands together, if at all possible. Don't force it. Just see if you can let it happen all by itself. If you're standing up, make sure you don't lose your balance. You might just find, there you go, for me, backs of the hands lightly touched at the top. Again, don't force that range. If it's not there naturally, don't force it. Again, we're not stretching to find something. Again, we're working within a comfortable range insofar as we can. We'll do one more wing beat at full range, whatever that is. And then we'll do another wing beat, but this time we'll just come up to shoulder height just to bring things back down to earth. Crane spreads its wings. Really nice movement. So we'll finish with a closing movement. Again, hands and arms on the outside. And we're circling the palms up, folding the elbows. And then there's this sense of a gentle resistance as we let the hands fall down. Again, if we're seated, we have to negotiate legs and armrests. If we're standing up, it's a bit easier. And then bring the hands back up again. But have this now sensibility of everything closing and coming to a finish. And we're packing things away, so to speak. A sense of gathering in everything that we've done. So I'll do this one more time to bring things to a close. Only this time we're going to bring index finger and thumb of each respective hand together so they link, and then we can just bring the hands to rest on the lower abdomen. And if you wish, we can spend 30 seconds or so. Might want to just let your eyes rest and just breathe and just kind of punctuate the end of a session with this rest and repose, just breathing. And then when we part the hands, that's our cue to say, that's the end. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to stop the recording. If you want to hang around and let me know how that went, that's great. If you need to get straight off, give me a wave.